right, welcome back, everybody. Walt Balenovich is originally from Welland and has traveled all over the world despite being in a wheelchair. Now, he joins me now to talk about his travels and, of course, the book he has written about them. It is called Travels in a Blue Chair. And, Walt, thanks for coming and joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, why would someone in your particular position decide that they're going to take off and visit the entire world, sort of one country after another?
Well, it wasn't a decision that you make consciously. It kind of creeps up on you after 20 years of travel. But basically, a friend of mine, I always, I started traveling with disabled sports. Back I was involved with the Niagara District Wheelchair Sports Association for many years. And so I got to traveling. We used to fly all over North America for competitions. Right. And a buddy of mine who lived in Port Dalhousie that I went to Brock with, he was working in Africa, and he came home when they were having some political problem, and I saw him at Christmas, and he had 5 more months there, and he said, have you ever thought about coming to Africa? And I said, wow, I'd never really considered it, but we had a great time for the month I was there. We went all over Kenya, and then after that I started traveling solo.
This is Cape Town that we're looking at here, and this is, of course, you in Cape Town, and some beautiful country. Of all the places that you've been, and you've been just about every place, what would be your favorite?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, I love Africa. I really do love Africa, but the country I think that surprised me the most, that a lot of people I don't think travel to, is Argentina.
Really,
it's tropical in the north. It's sort of Arctic in the south, down in Ushuaia. Beautiful wine country in Mendoza, in the foothills of the Andes. And Buenos Aires is one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and it's really cheap and affordable to travel to.
Obviously, we have our own trials and tribulations trying to get around in a wheelchair in Canada, and we're pretty adept at dealing with the issue here. But in some of these other countries, I suspect you would have had a much more difficult time because it's just not even a consideration, right?
Well, you're right. I mean, but interestingly enough, if you do get my book, you'll find out that there are surprising places that do accommodate you. For example, I found beveled curbs in Bangkok, of all places. Now, they were suicidal inclines, but still, they're making the effort, kind of a thing.
It's like being in a wheelchair in San Francisco. You got to be careful.
Well, exactly, but you've always got to be careful. And there's a lot of interesting anecdotes. I fell out of my chair in Zambia and broke my leg, and that cut that trip short. That was from the picture there, and just after I'd been to South Africa.
Well, that brings up another interesting point. The medical facilities in a lot of these countries where you've been traveling around aren't exactly up to par. So obviously, if you ran into a serious situation, like a broken leg, for example, you're in trouble.
Yeah, it's not as much of a problem when you're in a wheelchair because you don't use your leg that much, but still, it's I do have sensation down there, so it was a problem. And luckily, it was right at Victoria Falls. I had basically seen Victoria Falls for about 20 minutes, and then I hit a tree. I still don't know what happened. I hit a tree root or a rock or something, and fell out of the wheelchair stopped. I kept going, and some of the Zambian park rangers put me back in the chair, and some tourists, were fussing over me and said, why don't you come to the clinic? One of the hotels that was nearby, and a South African lady who was driving the ambulance said, well, I know the place. We won't take you to the Zambian hospital. We'll take you to a private clinic. And it was an Egyptian doctor, and he had the only blurry X-ray machine within 1,000 kilometers. So he puzzled over my X-ray for about half an hour, thought it was broken, put a cast on it, and when I got back to Welland, actually, the guy in the emergency was a South African doctor, so I kind of thought that was pretty ironic.
Kind of a small world.
Yeah, exactly, that's right, yeah.
Now, you've done all of these travels on your own. Is this something you would recommend to others who are in a wheelchair?
I think that people, this isn't really a book for disabled people necessarily. It's I have had people who've bought the book and have written to me and say, hey, you've motivated me to get out and do some traveling. It doesn't have to be, I take it to the extreme. I go all over the place. But, I've had able-bodied people write to me and say, listen, I picked up your book, and it's really, I've been kind of, not afraid, but leery about traveling or, going anywhere. And if a guy in a wheelchair can do it, and, anybody can do it.
A lot of these countries, for public transit and things like that, it would present a special problem for people who are in a wheelchair, would it not?
Yeah, it is. It's especially problematic, I think, if it's a lot of backpackers. I stay in backpackers hostels because I travel alone. You meet people,
sure.
And so a lot of those people travel on buses and things like that. But I try to use rail. Most of the time, you can get on a rail, and then the rail takes you where you're going. Or ferries are good. Once you're on the deck of a ferry boat or something, you can you watch life go by. Planes, a lot of. If you go to countries, you can just buy an air pass that takes you around the continent or something like that. But where there's a will, there's a way.
Well, why did you decide to put all this in a book?
Well, it's interesting because I used to write emails to my friends and family, and everybody said, your adventures were hilarious, and sometime you've got to write a book. And so it took a long, snowy winter in Ontario, and I wrote them down. It's easy reading. There's over 55 short stories, so you can pick it up, put it down. I market it. I try to tell everybody it's a bedroom book, but it seems to end up in the washroom. But hopefully that's
some of the best reading in the world.
That's right. Hopefully it's not an editorial comment. But the people who've bought it, they really enjoy it.
So a lot of traveling, 377 pages of the finest in here.
That's right.
Travels in a Blue Chair, Walt Balenovich, the author, and obviously, Walt, we can tell us where we can get it. Obviously, the bluechairbook.com, it's self-published, so you can get it there,
right?
It's
self-published. You can get it there. Alternatively, you can just go to Chapters, Kohl's, your local bookshop, and it won't be in stock. You can order it. Mm-hmm. And also, you can buy it online. You can buy it on Amazon or something like that. It's there.
All right.
And a portion of the proceeds are going to Rotary's International's efforts to eradicate polio, which is why I'm in a chair in the Third World.
Yeah, they're a big international campaign.
I'm doing a presentation next week at Welland Rotary Club, actually.
Oh, very good. Walt Balenovich, Travels in a Blue Chair. Pick it up. It's a good read, and enjoy the travels that he's had, and they have been substantial. Have to take a break. When we come back, we're going to visit a restaurant.